We understand that the world is complex and that change doesn't happen overnight. But you've now had more than 3 decades of blah, blah, blah. How many more do you need?
I'm gonna guess like 50 years or so is how much they'd probably like. But anyway, that's Greta Thunberg. And that is her address to the now digital version of the Davos Agenda. She delivered this speech as she has for a few years. This is the first virtual annual meeting of the World Economic Forum. And her addresses there have been, I think, a great opportunity for people who don't necessarily always tune into these international meetings that bear on climate change and the reactions of different states to it, to once again recommit to care about this and to expect more. That is there's lots of environmental activists, there's lots of ones who do amazing work. One of the things that she does very well is she has never allowed herself to be co-opted by any of these governments, nor easily bought off or artificially impressed by the promises that they've made about supposed deadlines and supposed carbon capture and all that stuff. So I want to give you a little bit of her address. The full speech, which is about 5.5 minutes long, is available. You can easily find it online. But here are a few of the parts that I thought was important for our audience to see.
My name is Greta Thunberg, and I'm not here to make deals. You see, I don't belong to any financial interest or political party, so I can't bargain or negotiate. I'm only here to once again remind you of the emergency we are in. The crisis that you and your predecessors have created and inflicted upon us. The crisis that you continue to ignore. Today, we hear nations and leaders all over the world speak of an existential climate emergency. And yet, instead of taking the immediate action you would in any emergency, they set up vague, hypothetical, distant targets way into the future. Targets based on loopholes and incomplete numbers. Targets like net zero emissions 2050. Targets that equal surrender. It's like waking up in the middle of the night, seeing your house on fire, and then deciding to wait 10, 20, or 30 years before you call the fire department, while labeling those trying to wake people up alarmists.
Okay, so I certainly have thoughts, but Adrienne, I want to give you a chance to comment.
Oh, well, just like the intensity. Oh, good God, it felt like it was Liam Neeson in Taken. She was just throwing it down. And the thing is, she speaks facts and she's absolutely right. I just hope that people actually listen and do something about it, because it is problematic that we have capitalism in control of essentially watching our world be torn apart by our desire to have more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love it. Everyone should definitely watch the full video. I'm gonna read one little quote in a sec, but the thing is, she's been doing now for years, and I'm glad that she's there, that she's doing this. She's gonna be consistent on this probably for the rest of our lives. So she's doing what she can. What we have to do is replace all of those leaders, because the thing is, she's going to address leaders from around the world at the WEF, and what they're gonna do is continue to try to buy time. Whether because they're like 100% corrupt, and receive money from the fossil fuel industries, or they just believe, well, we can't do anything crazy, like these things take time, like that sort of complacency that while you pretend to acknowledge the emergency, but you act as if it's clearly not an emergency for you, and you pretend to care about what happens to your kids and grandkids, but obviously based on your actions, you don't give a damn what happens to them. They're gonna continue to do that. And so we can try to put pressure on them, and we should. Maybe we can get something out of that, but we also need to start replacing them. And we're gonna turn in a little bit to America, but this isn't just an American problem. We also need better leadership in the UK and Germany and China and Russia and all over the world to get this done. And so what I am hoping is that while we in America can be inspired by her, I really do hope that not only Greta, but also figures like her, operating in all parts of the world, are successful in getting people to make this not just a consideration when they choose what leaders to support, which that was a big war, even to have it be a thing that's on people's minds, but for it to be the driving force in supporting one candidate over another, people who are actually going to prioritize this sort of thing.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were asking me that question. I completely.
Oh, no, I'm not asking you. I just wanted to give you an opportunity.
I was all with you. I was like, what's he need from me? But yeah, absolutely. It's completely and totally something that needs to be done, and we need action to be taken. All I can do is hope people listen.
Let me leave people with one last comment that sort of loops back to the beginning of that video that we saw. She says, and again, I'm not telling you what to do. After all, safeguarding the future living conditions and preserving life on Earth as we know it is voluntary. The choice is yours to make. But I can assure you this, you can't negotiate with physics, and your children and grandchildren will hold you accountable for the choices that you make. How's that for a deal? That's a good close. Okay, so we're gonna see what happens. Maybe new promises will be made. Hey, we're back in the Paris Climate Accords, which is good. And it would be great if it was nearly enough to actually deal with the problem, but it's a start, it's a start. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.